Greetings, Pilgrims, and welcome to another episode of the Polygon Pilgrimage. And today we're going to be continuing work on our game project here. And as I mentioned in previous weeks, this game is very heavily focused on getting these cards. We're going to play the cards down to the board. So we'll get some points from killing our enemies and from completing missions. And then with those points, we're going to purchase some cards. And some cards will be instant type effects. Some cards will be, you can actually spawn items to the board. So let me show you what it is that we have so far that is working. And then I'm going to show you the 5 parts that make this up and kind of walk you through what I've done to make it work. All right, so let's jump into the game world here. This is what we have so far. I'm running around and the board gets spawned in. We have our cards. We have all kinds of systems working. And as you can see in the upper left, we have our round number, and we have our health. We have our energy. We have a space for a special item. So that's all working quite well. Now, as I'm playing the game here, and I say, okay, I've got enough points. Where the points will be, they're going to be in the upper left there, just to the right of the shield. So you'll see your points, and say you've got enough points and you want to buy a card. Well, I've set it up so we hit the C key on the keyboard, and the camera goes up into the sky. We can see the whole board. We're going to see the table and all the real-world decorations around it. And we have our cards here. Now, this is obviously the same card over and over again right now, but we're going to have different cards. We have a whole system coming to randomize them, all that kind of stuff. Now, as I have these cards, I say, I want to read this one more closely. So if I click it, it's going to move to the front of the deck, and I get a UI here that says, click if you want to buy this card. And I say, you know what? I don't really want to buy this card quite yet. Let me click it to return it to the deck. And then I can click this one, and they all work the same way. And when I have one selected, I cannot select another one until I have unselected that one first. Then I'm all done, and either when I purchase a card and I use its effect, or if I decide, you know what, I don't really want to buy any cards right now, I hit the C key and we return right to the action. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and look at all the different parts and pieces that make this up. So let's begin at kind of the low end level. We'll work our way into complexity. So to begin with, we have the actual card blueprint. So this is a blueprint that we created. And for the viewport here, I have added add component here, added a static mesh, and that is the card model itself. So right over here, I put the card model into there, and you can get the card and the textures from one of our previous episodes. So if you go to that, you can download these assets for use in this tutorial as well. Now, then I have a texture here that is a material here that is using the texture from our cards that we created. And let's look at that very quickly. So this is all that there is for the viewport. We are going to come back into the event graph in just a little bit. So let's take a look at that material. That material is here, and it's very simple. All it is our texture imported and put into the base color for now. In the future, we're going to have metallic and roughness and maybe even some emissive, maybe even a little bit of normal. Right now, I really like the look of this. It looks like those old board game cards that had like a shellac onto it, but we will put in some maps here in the future to more closely control what we want. For example, some of these cards I'd like to follow a little bit of like the Hearthstone kind of style where there's different rarities to the cards. So it'd be nice if we have, say, like a gold or a rare card. We want to make sure that it's got a nice reflective shine to it. So that would be something we would change here. But for now, this is good. So just new material, drag and drop in our texture, and connect it into the base color. That's all it is for right now. Okay, so then what we need to do is start getting into a little bit of blueprinting. All right, let's go back to our card, and I'm going to go to the event graph tab here. And as you can see here, we have a little bit of stuff. Don't worry, it's not that scary. I'll walk you through it. So off of our event begin play, we're going to set a variable that we create, and that is this start position. And this is a vector, and the default value for this is 0, 0, 0. And what we're going to do here is we're going to take the card model, get its world location, and pump that into here. Okay? So all we're doing is right at the beginning, before anything else happens, we're just sort of remembering this place in space. So it's saying, later on, if I want to return this card to where it started, its start position, this variable will handle that for us. Okay, very good. Now down here we have a couple of custom events. Right now we're just going to focus on the toggle UI. The spawn UI we'll deal with a little bit later. And we also have another one down here. So toggle UI is a custom event. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to say is valid. And what we're checking to see the validity of is our UI reference. And that's another variable here. UI reference is a reference to something we haven't built yet in this tutorial, so just hold off on that. But we're going to check to see if the UI for the card is valid. And if it's there, then we're going to change the UIs, we're going to toggle its visibility. That's essentially what we're doing here, okay? So we're saying if it's valid, we're going to go ahead and do stuff. If it's not valid, if there's some reason that it's not there, then we can need to add it to the screen because it really needs to be there, okay? So if it's valid, we're going to get its visibility. And then based upon our different hidden, we have set visibility on both of these. And then based upon our toggle state, this thing goes into different states. So follow me here. So if it's visible, I want it to be hidden because this is a toggle. So it's left or right, 1 or 0, on or off kind of thing, okay? So when we come into this state, we're doing the opposite of what it is. So if it's visible, we want to set it to hidden. If it is collapsed, we want to set it to visible. If it is hidden, we want it to be visible. If it is hit test invisible, we want it to be hidden. And if it is self hit test invisible, we also want it to be hidden. All right? So just follow me with that. It works out nicely, but essentially, if it's visible, we want it to be hidden, and if it's invisible, we want it to be visible. So that's what this setup here does. And then this is our reference to the thing we're going to create, and that just has to be the target for both of these, because this is the UI for buying those cards, that little button that says, do you want to buy the cards? So we're saying, hey, if it's not shown, we need to show it, and if it is shown, we need it to go away. And that means we can call this for both instances. We can say, we want it to show up, okay, call this. If we want it to go away, we call this. And that way we just don't have to have two functions for the same thing. It's really all that is. Okay, so if it is not valid, then we need to go ahead and create it. So we're going to create an instance of this BP card actions widget. We're going to set our variable of the UI reference to that. We're going to add it to the viewport. And then we're going to, on clicked, what we're going to do is this click to buy a card. We're binding this event, and we're saying, what is the target of that? That's going to be this button that comes from this. So when we set this reference to our UI thing, we'll see in a moment, that button is part of it. So I'm getting a reference to that button here and saying, if you click that button, here's what I want you to do. Okay, if you follow me. So taking our reference here, getting a look at just the button and saying, if you click that button, go here and then go do the thing. All right, so that's what that's doing here. So we have this event called click button card, or click buy card, pardon me. So when you click it right now, all it's going to say is you bought a card. Okay, later it's going to do stuff. It's going to say, do you have the right amount of score? What does the thing do? It's going to do a whole bunch of things. But for right now, that's all that the cards actually have on them, is a reference to their beginning state. And then whether or not we show their UI is also included in here, and then the UI for buying the card. So if you follow all of that, you can pause, rewind, whatever you need to. Take it slow. All of that is good to go. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is actually build the UI. So here's the UI. It's very simple. And what this looks like is this is just a widget UI. And then what I've done is I've added a single button. So this button here is called button buy card. There he is. Very good. And then the text is there. And that's it. That's all there is to this. There's nothing on the graph, okay? So this is purely decorative, and then we have this button that we're going to reach into and say, if you click it, we're going to do stuff. We already looked at that, okay? So that's all he is, but we need to save him. So I called him BP card actions, all right? Now, if we go back and look at our card that we just did, you'll notice right here, create BP card actions widget. So that's what we're creating, okay? So you need to have that created before you do this, but I wanted to explain it kind of in reverse order because I wanted to explain what we're doing and why, and then we go back and say, okay, here are the things you need to create. So to create this variable here, this UI reference, okay, you're going to create a new variable type, and in the variable type here, you can actually click and then just type and search in here for your BP card actions, all right? And you want that to be as a reference, and then we're going to say save, compile, and then you'll be able to drag these lines off, okay? So you need it in these two places here, and here's what you actually set it. So again, take a look there. I'll pause there for a moment so you can take a look at that and pause it here if you need to. That's how that works. Okay, so now we have our card. We have a little bit of logic built into our cards for showing the UI and for clicking on the buttons. Then we have the actual UI itself, is the thing that we've built from there. We have our material for our card, and we have our card, but now we need a way to actually spawn the cards in the world. And the way this works is a couple of things. Up here, you can't see it right now because it's invisible, but we'll get to this camera in a moment too. That's the camera that we're using. But if I click this, you'll see this spot appears. This is our BP card manager. So this is the spot in the world where we want to start spawning the cards. Okay. So if I hit play again, let me show you really fast. So that spot is like behind this card, but it's up here in the air, and I've chosen a static spot in the world for that to occur to. All right. So that's what the card manager is. So let's go over how that works, and then when we're all done, we'll tie it together with the camera trick and all that. All right. So the card manager itself is a blueprint, and as you can see, there's nothing to it. I did do the whole scene trick where I say scene, drag it back over top, and call it card manager. Then it has another scene component beneath that is just a point in space, and I called it preview spot. And you'll notice that the transform for this preview spot is 0, 200, minus 200. This is the spot that the card snaps to when you click to view it more carefully. It just sort of brings it a little bit more forward. Okay, so that's important to know that this is what it is. There's nothing in the construction script, but we do have quite a bit in the event graph. So don't let this scare you. Everything down here is the old way I was doing it. I just kind of left it here as a reference to myself. This top way is the new way that my good friend Edward showed me, and thank you so much to his help. And we even have some notes here. Leave myself some notes to future development, things to improve upon. This system is by no means perfect, but it is, a good start to it. So what do we need to do? We need to spawn 5 cards, and then what we need to do is, if I click on them and we don't currently have a card that has been selected, then I need to make that the selected card. I need to move it forward, and then when I click on it again, and only it goes back, and then I'm free to select another card. So that's what we're going to do here. Okay, so on event begin play, we're going to spawn our cards. And what we're going to do here is go through a loop. And I'm going to loop 0 to 4. It's a 0 indexed array, which means 0 is the actual first position of the array. So you have 5 positions total. 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 5 positions. And what we're going to do is we're going to spawn a card from our BP card. So that's this guy here, this guy. And then this is all the code that comes in with him. So we're going to get 5 of these, okay? So by spawning 5 of those, we need to give it some information. We need to give it its rotation, so we're going to get the card manager's world rotation and say that's the rotation you're going to use. Now its transform. Where in the world do we want to spawn this at? Well, that's a little tricky. So I need 5 of them, and I'm going to loop through all 5 of them. So I need a mathematical formula that will allow me to select the far left one, the middle, the right one, and the far right one. So how we did that here is we're using the index. So the index increases every time you go through the loop. So the first time you go through the loop, you're using index 0. The second time you go through the loop, you're using index 1. So if you were to say add 1 every time, you just had a simple equation, 1 plus index. It'd be 1 plus 0, 1. And then next time it would be 1. 1 plus 1, 2. So you see how you can increase and kind of step your way up. All right, that's what we're doing here. So we're going to multiply by 250. Then we're going to add negative 500. Okay, so follow me here. With an index of 0, 0 times 250 is 0. 0 plus a negative 500 moves me from my center 0 here, my center axis 0, minus 500 this way. So that's going to go into our x, which is our left and right here. So that's the first card, the index 0 card. Index 1 comes along and changes everything. 1 times 250 is 250. 250 plus a negative 500 is negative 250. So we went negative 500. Now we're going negative 250. Now next time, 2 times 250 is 500. 500 plus negative 500 is 0. It puts it right in the middle. You see where we're getting here? 3, we get 750 minus 500, we get to 250. So we're now on the other side of the axis. And there you go. You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 once you go through all the indexes. Okay? Very clever, and I thank him for his help to figure that out because that was throwing me for a little bit of a loop, no pun intended. But we got that working, and now that's all well and good. So then, when we're done creating the card, we're going to bind its onClicked event to our custom event here called cardClicked. So if you click on this card that has been built, what are we going to do? First, we're going to do an isValid, and we're going to check to say, is our selected card, that's a variable that we have here, is that valid? Do we have a selected card? Okay, if we do, and that selected card is also the card that we have clicked on, See our touched actor here? That's the thing that we've clicked on. So if that guy and the selected card are one and the same, then what are we going to do about it? Well, we're going to cache to our BP card so we can kind of handle the card better by itself. And we're going to set its location back to the starting position. So if we already have a card selected, it's already up in our face and we're looking at it, and we click on it, well, then we need to put it back. Okay, so we're going to set its location back to its starting position. Whoop, put it back. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to toggle our UI. So the UI is toggled when we look at it, and then we need to toggle it off when we put it back in the stack. Then we're going to set our selected card to nothing. We're going to say we have no selected card. If, however, we click on the card and the selected card is not valid, so there is no selected card currently, then we're going to set the selected card equal to the card that we touched. That's our new selected card. Then we're going to set its target location to our preview spot. And we're going to get the world location of that and pump that into here. Okay, does that make sense? We have no selected card currently. Is valid on this is false. That means, okay, set our selected card equal to the thing that we just clicked on. Then over here, cache to BP so we can handle it. And using the selected card as our input here. Then we're going to toggle the UI, which means now we've clicked on a card. It's now moved up in front of our face, which is this. And then, once we have it moved up, turn on the UI to allow us to click to buy the card. Okay, so that's what that does. That's all of that there that we need. All in there. This is my old way of doing it as I was trying to figure it out. So ignore that. We just need this stuff up top here. Okay, so that's all well and good. Now let's go ahead and look at that again just so we understand it, okay? I'm going to hit play. I'm running around. I'm cutting down enemies. Okay, time to buy a card. Boom. Okay, so except for the camera movement, everything else is what we see here. We've built our 5 cards. -500, -250, 0, 250, 500. If I click on a card, currently there is no selected card. If I click on a card, a couple things are going to happen in rapid succession. It becomes a selected card, it moves to the preview spot, and we toggle the UI on. There we go. So we've got that going. We have the UI, and if I click the UI, you'll see it says bought card. Okay, that's all it does right now. Now, I cannot click these other cards until I click this guy back. See? He's the only one that has the focus right now. So if I click him to put him back, he's going to do a couple of things. Remember, we're going to say he's a selected card, and it's the thing we clicked on, then move him back to his start position, and unset the selected card. There we go. Oh, and toggle our UI off. Very important. So there we go. We can do that a couple times. Now, I did notice the other day there is a bug in here. I'm trying to figure it out. There is a situation where I think it's the 3rd time I click on a card, and if I try to purchase it, there's a problem. There's also the problem of at any time I can hit the C key to go back to the game, and my UI is still there. As you can see, the buy card there. So again, it's not perfect. We still need to work out a couple of bugs, but it's getting there quite nicely. Okay. So all of that is complete now. So now let's look at how we make the camera go flooshing up into the sky. Everybody loves that. It's a neat little trick. Okay, so we have to create a new camera. And the way you do this is over here, you have all of these things here. And you can just search for camera. So camera, there you go, camera. Drag it into the world and put it somewhere where you want it to be. For me, I wanted to be able to see the board because I want you to see the board in the background as you're playing the game and say, oh, okay, I'm going to buy this card because I see kind of a little spot here where I could use it, that sort of thing, okay? So this position here is totally arbitrary. I just moved around until I liked it, so it happened to be 4,233, 3,431, and then the -45 degrees and the -90 degrees to get it looking kind of down at the board like that. So that's all sort of arbitrary. You have to give it a specific name, so I called it card cam, okay? This is the camera we use when we're looking at our cards. Then you can create a customized button, like a mapping to a key. I believe it's under, let's take a look, project settings. We did this before in a different episode. Project settings, and then it's under, pardon me, where did I put it? Oh, maps and modes. That's where you put your modes. If we have our custom HUD and all that. We want it to be our inputs. I think it's under here. Yeah, action mappings. There you go. So under action mappings, you click plus here to create a new mapping. So you see mine here that says view cards. That's the name of the mapping. That's the name of the action. It's going to be the name of the actual thing that you call. and I told it the C key on the keyboard. Okay? And that's it. And you just close this and you're good. So now, currently I have this code in the level blueprint. I know, slap on the wrist, we need to put it somewhere else. I just want to make sure it works. So you go to blueprints, open level blueprint, and you're going to get this. And this is the code to make the camera work for the sliding camera up and down. Okay? It's a little crazy. Don't worry. I'm going to step you through it. All right. So over here, notice input action view cards. That's the thing we just made. So when you click view cards, we're going to go through a flip-flop. So if you're A, then you're going to do one thing. The second time I hit it, I'm going to do the second. I'm going to do B. So that's what makes us go up into the sky, come back down again. This guy up here, this set view distance thing, I was having some trouble, and I don't really think this is a part of it, so don't worry about him. Okay? So flip-flop. First time we press it, we want to go up into the sky and look at our cards. So we're going to set this Boolean variable called viewing cards to true. We are currently in the state of viewing the card. Then we're going to set another Boolean called freeze player. This means we don't want the player to move at all. And I need to input my third-person character here. Now this freeze player variable is actually going to be used in our player controller to just turn off their ability to move. And I think we've done that before. So then I'm going to, this is the real crux of what you want here. The set view target with blend. This is what basically moves the camera from A to B smoothly. Okay? So we're going to move the camera. The target is over here. Get player controller is the target. The new target is our card cam. So we're going to go from the player controller's camera to this camera. We're basically switching cameras at the moment. We're going to go to that blend time of 1 second. I'm going to put a short delay of 1 second just to allow everything kind of settle. Then I'm going to turn a couple of things on. And these are all found just by doing the search. But I want to show mouse cursor, true. I want to enable mouse over events, true. I want to enable click events, true. And all of these, if you follow their little line here, go all the way back to the get player controller. Because it's still the same controller, but it's a different camera. Okay, so that's a little confusing at first, but if you follow along here and plug everything together, it will work, and you'll see it. You'll be able to break it down. Okay, so all that's good, well and good. But now, when we hit C again, we're going to say, you know what? We're no longer viewing cards. Okay, we're going back to the game world. We're going to blend, and our target is now, again, get player controller, but our new target is the get controlled pawn from our get player controller. So that is the player controller's camera. That's the normal camera. All right? And again, blend time of 1, delay of 1. Let's unfreeze the player. Let's allow them to move around. We're going to show the mouse cursor, no more. I really should also have one of these to enable click events, turn that off as well. And that's it. So basically on a flip-flop of hitting C key, the first time you hit it, you do A. Well, every odd time you hit it, you do A. Every even time you hit it, you do B. So if you hit it 6 times, I can guarantee you you're doing B. Okay? So that's it. Goes back and forth, back and forth. And this is what we're doing. So this is the real crux of what you want, the set view target with blend. And that will allow our camera to blend back and forth. As I mentioned, there's still a few hiccups here and there. So as you're playing, you're doing stuff, I hit C key, I go up into the sky. You see I have free use of my mouse. Now if I hit C and I go back, notice I can still move my mouse and then it kind of gets captured again. There are a few times where that doesn't happen and I'll get back into the world and you can still see my mouse cursor as I'm running around. I have to actually click to kind of reinitialize it. So I'm still working those things out. You know, this is a journey. We're learning things every day. But I just wanted to share with you the process here. So we go up in the sky, we pick our card, we say, I want to buy that card, we go back to playing the game. And you'll notice that there's also, see, I had to click that time. You'll notice that there's also a disparity between the viewing apparatus, between the actual like letterbox or the full zoom, that kind of thing you can see on your TV, between these two cameras, and I don't quite understand that yet. I'm working that out. You'll notice that with this camera, with our player camera, it goes all the way to the edge of the player window here. If I hit the C key, however, you see that there are these black bars that have appeared here. And I think that's a difference in the focal viewpoint of the camera, but I need to find a way to change that to make sure that they are equal because I don't like that snapping nature of the two. But so that's what we've got so far. So let's do a quick recap. So we have our card, which we brought into the world. applied our texture from our previous episode. Again, you can go and you can download those assets for free. And then here is the code to make the cards work, pardon me. So we're remembering a position in space, and we have the ability to toggle our UI on and off for the card. That's excellent. We have our card action, so this is a UI that we're building up and developing to be able to select the cards, to be able to purchase them. We'll have a button maybe to say, view more information, something like that. So this can grow over time. We have the material for the card, which right now is very simple because it gives us a nice kind of default shellac look that harkens back to what we want. And again, we will be adding in maps later to control this specifically. Then we have the card manager, and this is an object that gives us a preview position and allows us to iterate through a loop, creating all the cards we want. And then also it takes into account our selection of the cards. So when we click a card, it will come up and do a preview spot. When we click only that card, it will go back, and it will allow us to actually click on another card and change which card is selected. So that's excellent as well. And then we have in the blueprint for the level, which it will be moved into a proper place once we have the system set up. We have a key mapped that will allow us to move our camera in a sweeping motion back and forth between the board and kind of a, on high kind of view of the world. There you go, there it is. So we have this view where we get to see the actual board, the board game, and then the actual table in the real world. So I'll be working on those textures and assets later on. They're literally decorative in the background. They're not going to do anything physically to the game, so they're not as important, but that's where they will be. And so this camera allows us to kind of go back and forth and take on the role of the player a little bit and select what card we want to buy. So I hope you guys have enjoyed very much. It's coming together slowly, a little bit by bit. I'm finally all caught up at work with my hours, so now I will be back to working on this every single day during my lunch break, getting a little bit of progress here and there. And I'm also taking user requests. If you guys have anything that you're working on and you need some help, please let me know. I've got a couple in the pipe, so those will be coming up in the next coming weeks. I think next for this project, I'm going to work on getting the score system set up, and that way we can have a score that we can actually click into to say, when I buy a card, do I have enough score? Because we need the score there first in order to really make the card purchases work. So we'll kind of build it up in layers. So as always, guys, I hope you've enjoyed very much. If you have any questions, please let me know. And keep practicing, get better, and I'll see you next time as the pilgrimage continues.